Good morning, friends. Welcome to episode 63 of the Make Saints podcast. I'm Drew Downs, and this one is called Restarting Resolutions. Now, last time I talked about why resolutions fail, right? Why we are terrible at them. And really, it's because we're only paying attention to a small part of the whole game board, right? That resolutions exist within an axis, right? And the two axes are mental versus physical and internal versus environmental. And so there's just all of the stuff that goes into the process, into living our lives. And so when we only focus on like willpower and wanting a thing, or even focusing on our own behaviors, we tend to only be existing in one corner or even one half of the game board, and so we're missing a great deal of stuff. And so knowing that helps us be better at resolutions. Well, this time I want to offer the first step to success. And that's to quit, which is great because you probably already have, right? Last week was National Quitters Day on last Friday, so this is like gravy. If you've quit, great news. Here, I'm going to dive in a second to how you're already ahead of the game. All these other jokers who are still working on the resolutions and running things and striving for perfect, they already are behind. You're ahead of them. Great. Good job. Like you're already a step ahead. Because the first step to getting better at this stuff is to quit, right? And not to quit altogether. It's to quit to get it out of the way. There's a friend of mine has this idea that she likes to look forward to, or really sort of sometimes even like go out of her way to get that first ding out of the new car. Like she doesn't buy like brand new cars, but like it's new to her. And so even when you're buying a used car with 40,000 miles on it, it still looks great. And when you drive it off the lot and you don't want anything to happen to it. And so she actually looks forward to getting that first ding within the first week of like when you're just sort of like, you open your door and you hit the post and you're like, oh shoot, I thought I was past it, right? She actually looks forward to getting that out of the way so she can relax. Right? As long as that streak is going, that perfection is on the table, she is not herself. She's operating out of a place of fear. And that can motivate us, but it can also destroy us. So really, when we're talking about learning how to quit gracefully and then restart, which is what we're doing, is we have to learn how to get over the fear of losing the game. I had one of the most famous habit tracking ideas is attributed to Jerry Seinfeld, and it's called "Don't Break the Chain." And you probably already know about this, or maybe you don't. But it's to take a physical calendar, literal like paper calendar, and for him, he wanted to write a joke every day as his daily practice, so that by the end of the year he has at least 365 jokes. Like he's a joke writer. Like this is his job, and so this is what he does. And so, but he wanted to leverage the sort of psychology of the momentum to help propel him to do the work. So what he would do is he would take this paper calendar. Every day he would write a joke. He would put an X on that day on the calendar. And so there's a certain point at which, having done several days in a row, there's a sort of boost to your interest in maintaining the streak. and not breaking the chain. And I suspect it's probably 3 or 4 days. There's a reason I think Snapchat uses the 4th day as the day for its streak, right? So you don't have a streak until you've done it 4 days in a row. And then what happens? Like, once you see that timer, you want to keep the streak going. The challenge, of course, the downside with streaks and chains and the fear of breaking them is what happens to us when we actually do. What happens to us when our lives happen. So a sort of perfect example for a lot of us is those of us who want to, who have 10,000 steps a day as our daily routine. And we generally don't have trouble doing it, but I don't know about you, where you are, but we're still in the middle of this really terrible snowstorm. And here the storm hasn't been bad, but those cold temperatures are heinous. And as it was going, it's been really hard to get the steps in. So I'm sure I'm not alone in this one, where I lost some days to that. And if I were and so one of the things I've had to get over is this idea, because I broke the chain on January 3rd or 4th or something this year. And in years past, that has actually really wrecked me. It hasn't totally thrown off my entire game, but I'm sitting here going, oh, there's a blemish on my record. Here I am. I actually think 365 days of perfection is on the table. How ridiculous is this idea? It reminds me a little bit, you may not, if you're old enough to remember this, but when you listen to radio and listen to FM radio or whatever, you're going on and your favorite song comes on and you're just oh, this is amazing. I love the song. You're rocking out or you're singing along. And then all of a sudden there's some static and you get angry. Oh my gosh, you're ruining my favorite song. And you blame the static, and suddenly it's static. Static itself becomes a source of intense anger. Now, static in general, you don't really care. Most of the time, you don't even the station's coming out. But then, but when it was your favorite song, you suddenly were the intensity skyrockets. It's irrational, that intensity. And it's because we lose sight. We lose perspective of the whole. It's obscene. This is kind of what happens to us when we're trying to avoid breaking the chain, is that we have this intense, irrational response to this whole experience. And so what we need to do is to right-size that. We have to get a plan, we have to be clear on our why, we have to get ourselves back into the mode where we can do the work. Because if it's worth doing, we're gonna make ourselves do it and get others to help us. Right? And to do that, we have to get over that intensity, that irrationality, and most importantly, we have to learn how to restart once we've fallen off the wagon, right? How do you get back at it? So learning how to work with that. So a lot of times it involves doing it, making ourselves do it, and getting help doing it, reaching out to other people and making sure that they can help us do this stuff. Because life is an infinite game. It's not just this 1 year. This is not the only time. This is not all it is. It's not just 365 days, win, lose. There's no victory. There's no failure. And you can't be a failure at life. We just keep doing it. You live your life. You don't fail or succeed. You can fail and succeed at things, but you can't fail and succeed at life. And resolutions are about figuring out how to make our lives better. So it's about our life. It's not about this other stuff. And so recognizing the longer game, recognizing that this just keeps going, recognizing that these resolutions that you're doing are about making your life better, puts a different spin on it, right? So for me, when I'm doing my steps, I recognize it's cold, I'm lazier, right? I live in the Midwest, have these cold days, I'm just not gonna get the steps in. But it also means this summer, I'm gonna be more active. And so 10,000 steps is harder now and it's easier then. So I'm more likely to get 8,000 now and 12,000 then. It's just how it's gonna be. And that's what I saw happen to me in this last year. And I still got in my 3,650,000 steps. I exceeded my expectations, but part of that was right sizing my expectations, right? So work with people. There's no bonus points for going alone, right? You don't get extra points here. Have an idea, plan it out, test it out, right? Then try again. That's what we're doing. These are experiments. That's what resolutions are, experiments. Regardless of what happens, we can just restart and do it a little bit differently, or do the same thing just in a different way, or even just do the same thing the same way because we're different, right? So may your restarts be bountiful, and your learning and your experience be plentiful, and may all of it be joyful. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.